Yeah, you could say that.
Our experience with Civ Revolution was really invaluable in this process, because clearly we're making Enemy Unknown, not just for PC, but also for the consoles. And we have a lot of developers from the Civilization Revolution team a part of this project. Our lead designer was actually an engineer on Civ Revolution. So just that experience of taking a revered PC title like Civilization and then making it work for the console, that's really helped a lot with our concurrent development on Enemy Unknown. At E3, we're actually showing a hands-off demo that is exemplary of our late game gameplay. XCOM, one of the themes in XCOM is about evolution. And when you start out the game, you know, you're behind the 8-ball big time. You just have conventional weapons, you have rookies that can die very easily, and your scientists back at base are telling you, look, the aliens have much more advanced technology than us. We need to do something about that. So we wanted to give you a glimpse of what your soldiers can evolve into. And so you saw, for example, the Archangel jetpack, where your soldier can fly all over the battlefield and have a tactical advantage because they have height over the aliens. You have the Ghost armor that can turn themselves invisible and sneak up on aliens. And then, of course, we showed you Psionic Sid Meier. So there's psi capabilities where you can mind control the aliens and truly turn the table on them with their own abilities. Permanent death was a very important feature of the first game, and it actually added to the fun factor in an interesting way. I mean, you would think on the surface that losing a soldier, that's not fun, but because that possibility even exists, it adds to the consequences and the decisions that you make on the tactical combat layer. Knowing that you can lose this guy that you invested some time into, it just adds to the tension, and it's something that we had to maintain from the original game. We think that there's console gamers and PC gamers out there alike that will embrace this. We're not trying to be unfair with it. Unless you play Impossible mode with Iron Man on, then you are a masochist and you are looking for punishment. But beyond that, we don't want to be unfair with it. We just want to be challenging. And knowing that you can lose that soldier is something that we had to maintain. Iron Man mode we put in there for the hardcore fans that want to play through the game and essentially not be able to save on their own accord. If they can't redo a turn, they can't go back a few hours. It's the auto saves for them every turn, and if you can make it through on Iron Man, you are a true XCOM superstar. The strategy layer is the mind of XCOM, and that's a really interesting portion of the game. The two interplay, the strategy portion and then the combat, and the loot and alien bodies and tech that you get back from the combat layer. You want to go back to strategy because there are countless decisions that can be made that open up to this wide open tech tree. You want to give this stuff to your scientists because they're waiting to get their hands on this. You give them a piece of loot and they'll say, okay, here's a few things I can do with that. You tell me what you want us to do, how you want to allocate, you know, these 5 scientists that you have. Tell us what you want to work on. Once that decision is made, that sets the gamer down a certain path to eventually be able to go to engineering and say, let's make some tangible items out of the research that we did. Let's create some awesome armor. Let's create stronger weapons. Let's build some new vehicles even. And that, you know, that's the high level cycle that can happen in strategy, but we didn't even touch on all the other stuff you can do, which is interception. You can, in the hangar, build your own interceptor jets, which allow you to proactively take the battle to the aliens. In the beginning of the game, you're reactive and you're waiting for the aliens to attack you, either on abduction missions or terror missions. Once you have interceptor jets, you can take the flight to the skies and shoot down the alien craft yourself and then go explore that UFO on the ground. So it's pretty exciting. There's other things like promoting your soldiers. We have an RPG-like system where you can level up your soldiers and give them these active abilities. And we have over 50 abilities that you can use to combo them together on the battlefield and have them do interesting things to take out the aliens. And then, of course, there's base expansion. So you can excavate deeper and build dozens of different rooms that give you gameplay benefits. So there's a lot to do on the strategy layer. I'm sweating even talking about it. It's an in-depth mode, and that's only half of the game. It's important for the players to ultimately protect the world. You want to protect Earth. That is their priority. And in order to do that, you have to deploy satellites into the sky. You can do that by building satellite uplink facilities and then providing coverage all over the world. If you have coverage over a certain country like Africa, then you can detect if a UFO is flying over Africa and they're planning to do missions there. Once you can detect those UFOs, you can deploy the interceptor jets. And just like the original, it's a really comfortable transition into those different gameplay types, which is the crashed UFO missions. You can deploy an interceptor, you can load them out with different weapons, they can be upgraded just like soldiers, and even eventually on the tech tree you can give the interceptors unique abilities so they can take down even higher level UFOs as you progress later through the game. There is permanent death, so we don't have a soldier hero per se, because the player is the hero, the commander is the hero. And one of the elements that we really embraced about the original, even though it's from the mid-90s, was that sense of player agency and players being able to replay the game differently every single time. And a new story played out in their head every time that they played. So with that said, we do have these high-impact cinematic moments that you will experience as you progress through the story of XCOM. But the way that the player chooses to get there is this wide-open net. And it'll be a different experience every time they play because of all the choices that you can make in research and engineering. It leads to these different cinematic moments at different times. So we sort of did a hybrid of both. We wanted it to not be such a linear story that it was a straight path, but we knew that we needed these certain moments to progress the player along. In one example, we talked about interception. You get this high-impact cinematic moment the very first time you shoot down a UFO. It's this big cinematic where your central officer is very excited. The entire all of the officers in mission control are applauding because they're excited. I mean, this is the first time that you have been able to take down an alien craft, so it's a huge moment for Earth. When that moment happens, again, is up to the player. They may have chosen to go down a path where they don't deploy satellites around the world. Maybe they're going for laser weapons first. They're trying to create advanced armor for their soldiers. You only have a finite amount of resources, and it's up to the player to determine how to use those. So that particular UFO shot down cinematic may not happen until later in the game because of what you're choosing to do before that. XCOM Enemy Unknown will be out on October 9th on PC, Xbox 360, and PlayStation 3.